when one person passes away, your expenses don't get cut in half. And when we've seen cases where their expenses actually go up depending on their age, maybe they're starting to travel more, do some other things that they're busier now that they're alone.
Hello, this is Mark Silverman, managing member and founder of Silverman & Associates, and I'm also a certified financial planner professional. I want to welcome you to the Saving with Silverman podcast. I'm glad you're here. Each week, we'll discuss different financial planning topics because making smarter choices about your money impacts the quality of your life.
Let's talk about some of the details that people often fail to even think about when they're planning for retirement. First of all, number one on the list here is, will you need to support your parents or kids later on? As a matter of fact, you may be in the sandwich generation yourself, listening to the show today, having to provide money for both your parents and your kids.
Yeah, I mean, that's a reality. Certainly parents needing care, kids still needing some help. I have a daughter, she's 17, but I don't know how long she'll need help for, but it's hard to kind of tell kids, no, I get it. But by the same token, you don't want to be enabling and give them too much. So there's a fine line there. So you want to make sure you're doing the right thing. So yeah, it's a tough thing, and you've got to take care, hopefully if you're in the same town as your parents or if your siblings are, you're able to take care of them as they took care of us when we were kids. So it's important to make sure we're taking care of family. I mean, family comes first.
Tough situation, that's for sure, and I know what that's like because I have 2 adult children as well. So, a lot of people going through that situation, baby boomers primarily. How does your family feel about you quitting your job? I'm sure you've had some people retire and then they come back and say, "I've been retired 6 months, Mark, and I can't stand it anymore. My wife doesn't want me around."
Well, we do planning first. So financial planning, we answer all those questions. And as I tell people through that planning process, I'll put a plan together for your money, but you need to put a plan together for your time. Mm-hmm. Whether that is, traveling or playing golf or pickleball, maybe donating your time to a worthy cause, maybe doing another career or doing some type of part-time work just to keep busy. Whatever it is, you need to figure out what you're going to do with your time when you do retire, if you do fully retire. Some people never fully retire. They may slow down or shift in a different direction. There's certainly nothing wrong with that.
You were talking about, if you have hobbies or, how you're going to spend your time. I guess it's important to think about if you're retiring from your job because you absolutely hate it, or maybe you're retiring to something else. There's something else you really want to do to spend your time, right?
Right. Maybe it's a second career, or there's something else you've wanted to do, or you just want to, take a job, working at Home Depot just for the for the health insurance benefits or something like that, or something you want to do to offset your time. And there's certainly nothing wrong with that. But you've got to figure out what you're going to do to keep busy. Just because you retire doesn't mean you stop everything. You got to keep active, health-wise. You've got to keep your mind active. So there's lots of things that are part of that, and that's part of our planning process, is discussing what you're going to do in retirement to keep busy. And we've had some people that get bored and they finally decide they want to go back to work, maybe doing something different, or maybe to what they used to do to a lesser extent, maybe contract work, whatever it might be. There's certainly nothing wrong with that, but you got to figure out what you're going to do with your time once you are fully retired.
Well, some of us, our identity is so wrapped up in what we do for a living. Particularly, this is true with men, I think, just based on the people I know and everything. It really is tough to stop doing that all of a sudden, and then you start to question, who you are and what you should be doing and all that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you another question here about things that you may not consider, but let me remind folks that this is Saving with Silverman, Mark Silverman. 520-333-7601 is the number to call, or you can send a text to that same number, 520-333-7601. Are you prepared to handle infrequent but major purchases? For example, maybe your roof springs a leak and you need a new roof. Are you prepared to do those things? Something else to think about.
And that can happen here in the summertime, especially with monsoon season. The other big one is in the summertime, your air conditioning goes out and you need to replace that. So, these are all part of the planning process. just because even if your house is, paid off, it's free and clear, you still have property taxes, insurance, upkeep, et cetera, maintenance. So those are things. And, we want to make sure we set aside enough in your emergency funds that you can access. And everybody's number is a little bit different based on what you're spending and that sort of thing. So we'll help you calculate that as well. But those are the sort of things. So if you do need a new air conditioning, and let's say it costs $10,000, we've got to pull another $10,000 from somewhere else to keep that emergency fund always at that level. And that's what it's there for. So, it's important that you have a plan.
And let's face it, if you're living in Arizona, your air conditioner goes out. That is not a small deal.
No.
It's something you've got to deal with no matter what. What happens to the income plan that you have so carefully put together, or maybe not? What happens to the income plan at the death of the first spouse? That's something you need a professional's help with as well.
Yeah, and we always look at those when we do planning. If one person dies, what happens to the other one? And, if there's a pension, does the pension last for both of their lives, or is there a reduced amount that the survivor gets? We want to look at that. Sometimes people take a pension and just take it on their life only, so the survivor gets nothing. That's an issue we need to talk about. And the second thing is Social Security. So if somebody's getting Social Security and the other person's getting Social Security, so both are getting Social Security, if one person dies, they would get the higher amount, whether it's theirs or their spouse's. However, they lose their benefit. So everybody's getting a reduction when one person dies. So because you're going to lose, instead of getting 2 Social Security checks, you're only getting 1. So we need to figure that out. And as you probably expect, when one person passes away, your expenses don't get cut in half. And when we've seen cases where their expenses actually go up depending on their age, maybe they're starting to travel more or do some other things that they're busier now that they're alone. So we want to make sure that the income is going to be very similar to what it was when both spouses are alive. So that's one of the things that we talk about.
Mark, I know you probably know that, a lot of people assume that their expenses are going to be cut in half because they've been told that in the past. And that's not the case at all. I mean, your utility bill, for example, is just one thing that's going to remain almost exactly the same.
Correct. The only thing you're really saving maybe is a little bit on food. That's about it.
Yeah.
So, like I said, we try to keep the income about the same if we can.
Yeah. Well, if you'd like to have a conversation with Mark Silverman about your situation, I'm going to give out that all-important number in just a moment here. But, Mark, so folks know, they're listening to the show today, and they want to have a conversation with you. What do they need to be prepared for when they have that very first conversation?
Well, you're just going to be calling or texting, and you'll give out the number in a minute. You're going to we'll reach out to you on Monday if it's not a holiday, and Christine, who works with me, will reach out to you and get you on my calendar for a 15 to 20-minute phone call, and it's with me. I don't pawn you off on somebody else, and I'll answer any questions that you may have. Maybe you're working with someone, maybe you've never worked with someone. How do we work? How do we help people? And then I'll get into a little bit about our process. And at the end of that call, I'll give you some advice and point you in the right direction. If we're both on the same page, we'll discuss the next steps as far as coming into the office and meeting formally in a getting acquainted meeting. So it's really nothing happens until you reach out. I try to help everybody that I can. There's not a minimum or anything like that. That doesn't mean everybody's a good fit for our practice, but I do try to help everybody that I speak to or point them in the right direction if they're not a good fit, etc.
You've been listening to the Saving with Silverman podcast. If you have any questions at all about your financial situation, please give Mark Silverman a call. Again, his number is 520-333-7601, or go online to savingwithsilverman.com. For Mark Silverman, I'm Ron Stutz. We'll see you next time on the Saving with Silverman podcast.
The Saving with Silverman podcast is brought to you by Silverman & Associates Wealth Management, LLC, based in Tucson, Arizona. The show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and everywhere you listen to shows. Subscribe to the show on your favorite app today and never miss an episode. Just search for Saving with Silverman to find us, or visit savingwithsilverman.com to listen to past episodes, to contact Mark, and to learn more about how to make smarter decisions with your money.
Did you know that Mark Silverman also has a radio show? Tune in to Saving with Silverman Saturdays and Sundays at 3 p.m. on AM 790 KNST.
All matters discussed on this show are for informational purposes only. Opinions expressed are solely those of Silverman & Associates Wealth Management LLC and staff. All topics covered are believed to be from reliable sources. However, Silverman & Associates Wealth Management LLC makes no representation as to its accuracy or completeness. This show shall in no way be construed as a solicitation to sell securities or investment advisory services to residents of any state other than Arizona or where otherwise permitted. Topics should be discussed with your individual advisor prior to implementation. Fee-based financial planning and investment advisory services offered through Silverman & Associates Wealth Management LLC, a registered investment advisor in the state of Arizona. Insurance products and services are offered through Silverman & Associates, an affiliated company.